Welcome back to another MOTOBOB video where today you join me at Fowler's Motorcycles in Bristol, and this is a video that a few people have been asking for. The Tiger Sport 660 versus the Tiger 850 Sport. Two very similar bikes, certainly in terms of price point. They're only about $1,000 apart, but they really are quite different to ride. So in this video I'll go through all their strengths and weaknesses, and at the end I'll tell you which one to buy. But before we get started, a massive thanks to Beeline Moto for sponsoring the channel. It's a super neat little navigation device that'll fit on any bike, really easy to use, and the app is very nicely designed. And look, with the Tiger Sport 660, you can get a Bluetooth accessory module, so you can get turn-by-turn nav on the dash. But for this bike, the Tiger 850 Sport, you can't get nav on the dash. So this is a great way if you want to add navigation capabilities to your bike. And they do a Triumph branded version, which looks especially neat with a Triumph bike. There's a link down in the description where you can find out more information. So let's start with the engine on these two bikes, and yes, they're both inline triples and they both make about 80 odd horsepower, but there are a couple of significant differences. I mean, firstly, you'll get no price for guessing that the Tiger Sport 660 is a 660cc engine, so a little less capacity than the Tiger 850 Sport. It makes a little bit less torque, so for the same peak power, you do have to rev it that little bit harder. Given that it's a couple of hundred cc's bigger, the Tiger 850 Sport makes more torque, and as such, you don't have to push it so hard for its 84 horsepower peak. There's plenty of fun to be had on the Tiger Sport 660. It likes to rev, it feels lively. It's based upon the Street Triple 675 engine, but if you're looking for more adventure bike versatility and more grunt and strength in the mid-range, then the Tiger 850 Sport is the one to go for. The other key difference is that this engine is the 888cc inline triple that's the same as the Tiger 900, so it gets the T-plane crank, whereas pretty much any other triple, and that includes the Tiger Sport 660, has 120-degree intervals between each cylinder. The T-plane crank spaces two of the cylinders closer together and then one further apart, and that gives it more of the feel of like a parallel twin, like the Africa Twin that has a 270-degree crank. It gives it a rougher feel, a rougher growl at the exhaust note as well. And the reason that Triumph did it is to give it more of a sense of torque down in the low revs when you're riding it off-road, which clearly isn't a concern for a road bias bike like the Tiger Sport 660, but you might do some light gravel and easy off-roading on this bike. The only downside with that T-plane crank is that it does vibe more. You'll find the Tiger Sport 660 to be quite a bit smoother. The T-plane crank does sound great. It definitely has its benefits in the low revs, but if you start to rev it out a little and if you're cruising on the motorway for a couple of hours, you might find a regular triple to be a little bit more comfortable. And so it really comes down to what sort of riding you think you'll be doing. If you're doing sporty, revvy road riding, then this is the better one to go for. If you want a grunty, mid-rangey all-rounder that's got a little bit of off-road capability, the 850 offers that. Now, one other thing worth covering here is that they might look like they've got different tank sizes. In fact, they do have different tank sizes. So 17.2 litres on the Tiger Sport 660. This bike gets a 20-litre tank. But the thing is, with that extra capacity, it's not quite as fuel efficient as the 660. And so you'll find that the range of these two tanks, if you use the estimated fuel consumption figures, is pretty much exactly the same. It's about a mile out. So what I'm trying to say is, don't go for this one because you think it's got more range. That's not necessarily true. What I was saying about the engines there, this one being more road biased and this one being more of an all-rounder, you know, that plays out in the handling as well. You can see from the size of the wheels on the Tiger Sport 660, it's got 17 inches front and rear, and then it's also got Michelin Road 5 tires, which are absolutely excellent on the road. It's not such a long bike, it's got a slightly more aggressive geometry, and so that's the one to go for on the road. It feels light and agile and nimble. The Tiger 850 Sport gets the same wheel sizes as the Tiger 900 GT Pro, so a 17 at the rear but a 19 at the front to give it a little bit more off-road capability should you want to dabble. It also gets Michelin Anarchy Adventure tires, which sort of play into that characteristic, and generally I'd say it's a longer, bigger bike with more of a sat-up feel to it. more stability to it, more presence, more versatility in that sort of adventure sense. And so again, it comes down to what sort of riding you think you'll do. Another red herring in the specs here is probably the braking. So you get Brembo Stylema brake calipers on the Tiger 850 Sport, which are very high spec for a bike at this price point. You also get a radial master cylinder from J-Juan and then steel braided hoses. And so the braking setup actually looks quite sporty. The Tiger Sport 660 gets humble two-pot Nissins, and you might think on paper it doesn't look great, but the brakes on this bike perform much better than they look. And so again, although the braking looks like it's going to be better on the Tiger 850 Sport, I don't think in reality on the road the difference is that big. In terms of comfort, they've both got nice wide high bar positions that feel very comfortable to me. They've got similar seat heights as well, and they both get adjustable windscreens. I will say I think that the mechanism is slightly better on the Tiger Sport 660. It's very easy to push up and down with one hand while you're on the go. This one, and on the Tiger 900s as well, you sort of have to push it out to do it, and it's just a little bit more tricky than I find the Tiger Sport 660. I'd also say the screen is a little bit wider on the Tiger 660, whereas this one is taller and thinner. So if you're short and wide like me, you might get better wind coverage here. If you're thin and tall, then this bike might be better. Generally though, I'd say if you were doing long motorway miles, you're going to find this bike a little more comfortable. This seat is adjustable as well between 810 and 830 mil. The Tiger Sport 660 as standard is 835, and you have to pay 150 quid for a 20 mil lower seat. So although the sort of options are similar for the two, it's going to cost you on that bike. I'd also say you've got a little bit more room for a passenger here, and quite substantial grab rails and a little rack at the back. So overall, for its presence and size and the wind protection around the body here, I'd say comfort goes to the 850. Tech-wise, they're super similar. So two riding modes of road and rain, both of which affect traction control and the throttle map. TC is switchable on both bikes as well. Of course, you get ABS, but I don't think it's switchable on either. And then you get LED lighting all round and self-canceling indicators. Neither of them come with cruise control, which is a bit of a shame. But I think the big differentiating factor here is the dash. The dash on the Tiger Sport 660 is a little bit smaller. It's got an LCD part at the top and then a very small TFT dash at the bottom, but that does give you access to menus and some of the settings, and you can also get that Bluetooth accessory module that I talked about, which opens up phone call handling, messages, media playback. You can skip music and podcasts from the switchgear, and also turn-by-turn navigation from the My Triumph app. The dash on the Tiger 850 Sport is generally better, I'd say. It's a big TFT, it's 5 inches, it's got great visibility, I really like the layout of it, but there's no Bluetooth accessory modules, so you can't get turn-by-turn nav, and you'll have to either mount your phone on the bars or, as I've recommended, go for a Beeline Moto. If you like the sound of the Bluetooth connectivity and you use a headset, so you want to be able to accept and reject calls and skip your music, and also like the sound of the integrated turn-by-turn nav, then that's your only choice, the Tiger Sport 660. If you like to use your own navigation device or mount your phone on the bars anyway, and you just want the best, most visible dash with the most screen space, then this is the one to go for. Looks-wise, I don't know, they're both good-looking bikes, especially in this red color. It's my favorite for both of the bikes. The 660 is a little bit more road focused and it has a more sporty look to the front end, whereas this bike stands up a bit more. It's got that girth in the tank that gives it more of an adventure bike look, and it fits in with the rest of the Tiger 900 lineup. And look, beauty is in the eye of the beholder, so let me know which one you prefer down in the comments below. Price-wise, they're about $1 grand apart. So the Tiger Sport 660 comes in at $8,450. Really well priced when you look at the competition like the Versys 650 and the Tracer 7. You get a lot of extra features and performance for just a little more than those two bikes, whereas this 850 comes in at $9,400, so about £1,000 more than the 660. Whether that's good value for money or not really depends, as I've said through this video, on what type of riding you're doing. If you're doing road focused riding and you like to rev the bike a bit, definitely go for that one. But I can see how this one is worth it if you do want that sort of all-round adventure bike versatility and more of that size and comfort and presence that you do get with a sort of more substantial adventure bike. As always, I'd love to know which one you choose down in the comments below, so do let me know. And if you're new here and you want to see more videos like this, hit subscribe and I'll catch you next time.